Hello everybody, it's Miss Scamming here, and I just wanted to make a quick video going over what we're doing in class. We were talking about long division, which I know is something that we touched on in maybe 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, but it's something that we really need to master here at the middle school level. I've noticed that my 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students are getting something switched up or struggling with this a little bit, and I know a lot of it also comes from just not having our math facts memorized, not being comfortable with our times table. And so I know when they go home, a lot of them have been asking for extra help. They get confused what they learned in class, they might have brain dumped a little bit. And so I wanted to make this video so one, they can keep it as a resource at home and they can refer to it as they need. And two, also so that parents who want to help their child with their homework also have a good refresher and are able to have some prior knowledge recalled. Now, every student, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, do have cheat sheets. So there are step-by-step instructions with examples on those cheat sheets as well. But some students don't do well by reading, they do well by watching and doing, so that's why I decided to make this video as well. So the first thing I want to talk about is math terms. So when we talk about math terms, we have a different language, and I know a lot of my students end up saying, like, why can't we just call it the answer? Well, it's important because when we talk about quotient, although that is the answer to a division problem, it tells us that it's a division problem. So when we have word problems, we'll see things like find the quotient, and you automatically know you need to do division, which can help narrow down what you need to do and how you need to do something when you're given a word problem. We also have the divisor and the dividend, and I notice a lot of students like to switch where these go. So the best way I would remember it is the dividend ends with end, and the dividend is also at the end of this line. There's nothing else over on this side. This is it. This is where it ends. Now, this is how we would set it up for long division, but sometimes it's given to us in this form or in fraction form, which we can take any of these and put them in the right spot for that long division form. Now let's talk about long division when we have two whole numbers. So in this case, we look at this first number and we say, can 15 go into 3? Nope, so we have to pull from the buddy here. So can 15 go into 33? Absolutely it can. It can go in 2 times. So I'm going to put the 2 up here. And for me, I like to put the 2 above the last buddy I use just because it keeps things in line, and that's important for when we talk about decimals later on. Now, 2 times 15 is 30. So I'm going to write 30 underneath. And now I can do subtraction. 33 minus 30 is 3. Now, we know from previous that 15 cannot go into 3, so we're going to have to pull from a buddy again. So I'm going to pull this buddy down. And now I see that 15 can go into 37 2 times. 2 times 15 is 30. And we do that subtraction again, which leaves us with 7. Again, 15 can't go into 7, so I'm going to pull down that buddy. And now I look, can 15 go into 75? I know it can go into 75, but this isn't typically a math fact. It's not something that I expect the students to have memorized, although it's helpful. The way that I look at it is one of 2 ways. I know that there are 4 15-segment periods in a clock. A clock is 60 minutes. And there are 4 15 periods. So I know it can go in at least 4 times. So let me see if I go in another time. So I would do 60 plus 15, which is 75. So I know that 15 can go into 75 5 times. Again, 5 times 15 is 75. Subtract that, and that gives us 0. Now we have no remainers, no leftovers, so we know that 3,375 divided by 15 is 225. Now, a lot of my students will say, well, Miss Scamming doesn't allow us to use calculators. And that's true. I want you to be able to show me you know how to do long division. In fact, that's what we're getting tested on is, can you show me the steps of long division? If you were to just use a calculator, it doesn't show you these steps. Now, however, going back to this 5 times 15, that is absolutely okay to use a calculator. So if I wanted to pull this calculator up, and I said, well, I know that 2 times 15 is 30, but I need a bigger number. I need it to be 75. I can do the guess and check method where I do 15 times 3. All right, not quite 75. So 15 times 4. 15 times 4. Again, that's the 60. So I know I could probably do one more. 15 times 5. There we go, 75. So I know that. This is an appropriate time to use a calculator. Now, moving over here to this side, if we have a decimal, it's really easy to forget that decimal, and a lot of students do. So we're going to walk through how we do division with a decimal. A lot of the steps are going to be the same. So we're going to look at this and say, can 32 go in 22? Nope. Can 32 go in 27? Nope. But can it go into 272? Absolutely it can. It can go in 8 times. Now, I know that off the top of my head because I've been doing this problem for a couple years now. But again, that's where a calculator would be appropriate to guess and check. So 32 times 6, not quite there. And you continue on until you figured out that it can only go in 8 times. Now, 32 times 8 equals 256. So we do the same thing we would do before. We put it underneath and we subtract, which would give us 16. Now we know 32 can't go into 16, so what would we do? Well, I like to remember that because we were fortunate enough to put them in a line and line up our numbers, so I didn't put the 8 over here, I made sure that I moved it over as we were doing the buddies, I can just move my decimal right directly above that line. Now I don't have to worry about it anymore. I can pull down that 6 and I can continue doing what we were doing. So 32 goes into 166 5 times. And if we pull this over here again, we could guess and check. 32 times 5 is 160. So again, we drop that down and subtract it. We're left with 6. 32 cannot go into 6. So then we bring this 4 down. And 32 into 64, that can go in twice, which is exactly 64. And now we have no leftovers, and we have our answers, our quotients. Now, we may run into cases where things are not evenly divided, and there's 2 things I want to talk about. If we have a remainder, our remainder is also a numerator, and the divisor becomes the denominator. So if this case here, we were to have a remainder and we just can't pull it down, we could have 225, say a remainder instead of 0 was 3. We could do 3 over 15, but that's not quite simplified, so that's not a final answer. So 225 and 1/5. Okay? The other thing is if we keep seeing a pattern, so we keep getting 3 and 3 and 3 as a remainder over and over again, that's when we know we have a repeating decimal, so we would use bar notation. And that just symbolizes that this 3 repeats forever and ever and ever. And that is, I hope, a good refresher, a good start on how to do long division, maybe a good reminder for some of you. This is something that we're going to practice a lot in class. And again, the students have a cheat sheet. It tells them step-by-step instructions. It also tells them about converting things into decimals. It talks about how to convert things to an improper fraction, adding and subtracting fractions, but this is all a good start.